Part 1. A cold morning in Fayetteville. Some cases start with a scream. This one starts with a calm voice, trying to sound panicked on a cold Tuesday morning. Fayetteville, North Carolina, November 10th, 2009. The sun is not fully up yet. Streetlights are still on. Houses are quiet in that fragile window before school runs and morning traffic. The air has that sharp bite that makes every breath feel louder. And in a mobile home park on Sleepy Hollow Drive, a 5-year-old girl is suddenly missing. Her name is Shaniya Nicole Davis. She is the age where a backpack looks too big on her shoulders. The age where her world is made of routines, cartoons, favorite colors, and small comforts. The age where the adults around her are supposed to be the entire safety system. But that morning, the safety system is full of cracks. Police get the call, and the response is immediate. Officers arrive. Questions start firing fast, because the first hour is everything. When did you last see her? What was she wearing? Were the doors locked? Who else is in the home? Who was here last night? Did anyone come by early morning? Neighbors step outside and start scanning the street, like the ground might suddenly reveal an answer. People walk the edges of yards, check behind sheds, shine flashlights into the dark corners where fear likes to live. At first, the public clings to the simplest outcome. Maybe she wandered outside. Maybe she went to a neighbor. Maybe she is hiding, scared, and someone will find her curled up somewhere warm. But the details refuse to be comforting. Shaniya is reported missing without shoes, without a coat, without anything that makes sense for a child stepping out into November air. And the adults in the home do not sound like people who are only confused. They sound like people measuring their words. Shaniya's parents were not together. She had lived with her father, Bradley Lockhart, at times, and then with her mother, Antoinette Davis, again. Family members had concerns about instability. Those concerns existed long before the patrol cars pulled in. That is the part nobody wants to talk about on day one, because day one is for hope. Day one is for search dogs and posters and prayers. But as police work the neighborhood, another reality is forming behind the scenes. This is not just a missing child. This is a child removed from a fragile situation where the wrong adult only needs one opening, and that opening, investigators will learn, may have been inside the home itself. Part 2. The camera that turned panic into proof. In cases like this, investigators pray for something solid: a witness, a license plate, a confirmed time, a direction. For Shaniya, the break comes from a place that feels almost surreal: a hotel in Sanford, North Carolina. A worker sees the Amber Alert and something clicks in her stomach. Not a vague feeling, recognition. Because earlier that morning, a man checked in with a child who looked like the photo now flashing across screens. Police pull the surveillance, and there she is. Not outside in the cold, not wandering, not lost. She is on camera, inside a hotel, being carried by an adult man. The footage is disturbing because it looks normal. Bright lobby lighting, front desk small talk. A man who doesn't act like he is being chased. He gives a name. He moves through the building like he belongs there. That man is identified as Mario Andrette McNeil. The cameras catch him returning from the parking lot, carrying Shaniya in his arms. She is wrapped in a blanket, barefoot, quiet, too quiet. Hotel staff notice what doesn't fit. He doesn't behave like a parent traveling with a child. There is no comforting, no casual conversation, no child tugging at a sleeve or asking for cereal. He is in and out, rushed, tense in a way that doesn't match the calm mask he is trying to wear. He stays less than 2 hours. Then the cameras catch him leaving again, still carrying Shaniya. A maintenance worker sees him pass, and the moment sticks. It feels wrong. Not dramatic wrong, but the kind of wrong that makes your brain rewind itself later, over and over, asking why you didn't stop it. McNeil puts the child into the car. He checks out quickly, and he drives away. That footage changes the entire case in one hard cut. This is not an accident. This is not a child wandering off. This is an abduction. Police move fast. They track phone data. They locate McNeil's vehicle. They tighten the timeline and start pulling at every thread connected to the people around Shaniya. Because now the most important question is not how she vanished. It is who had access. Who knew McNeil? Who let him close enough to take her? And if the answer to those questions is what detectives fear, then Shaniya was not taken by a stranger who got lucky. She was taken by someone who had a door open for him. Part 3. 6 days. A collapsing story, and the moment hope dies. Once McNeil is identified, the investigation turns into 2 races happening at the same time. Race 1 is physical. Officers and volunteers search roadsides, woods, drainage areas, anywhere a child could be hidden. The focus shifts toward Highway 87. the kind of road that cuts through rural stretches where it's easy to disappear. Race 2 is psychological. Detectives press the adults around Shaniya, separating stories, comparing timelines, looking for the moment the truth cracks. McNeil lies, then adjusts, then lies again. He denies he had the child. He denies he was there. He denies what the cameras show, like the cameras are the ones mistaken. But video is a cruel witness. It does not forget. It does not blink. It does not care how confident you sound. Under pressure, McNeil's story shifts. Police arrest him for kidnapping. It's a charge that signals urgency, and in the public mind it creates a fragile hope. If he is in custody, maybe she is alive somewhere. Maybe the next step is rescue. But while the search continues, detectives also keep digging into the home on Sleepy Hollow Drive, and the deeper they dig, the worse it gets. They find instability, neglect, chaos, adults who don't seem centered on one fact that should erase everything else. A 5-year-old is missing. Then comes the part of the case that makes people's stomachs turn, because it destroys the last illusion. Investigators allege that Shaniya was exploited as part of a debt arrangement tied to drugs and trafficking. It is the kind of truth that makes a room go quiet, not because people don't understand it, but because they do. A child treated like currency. That is not a mistake. That is a moral collapse. This is where Shaniya's story becomes bigger than one predator, because the predator still had to reach her. He had to get inside her life. He had to get close enough, and close enough should have been impossible. The search stretches on. Daylight fades, comes back, fades again. The public watches the father's face on the news, the kind of pain that doesn't need dramatic music, just the tremble in a voice asking anyone, please, bring her home. 6 days after she vanished, on November 16, 2009, volunteers searching near North Carolina Highway 87 find what nobody wanted to find, Shaniya's body. The moment that confirmation arrives, the case changes permanently. The search ends. The crime scene begins. The community's hope snaps into grief so fast it feels like whiplash. People who spent days walking fields and woods now have to live with a new memory, the exact moment they realized time ran out. Investigators later determined Shaniya was killed. The details that emerge in reports in court proceedings are horrifying, and the horror is not only in what happened to her, but in the idea that it did not have to happen at all, because she wasn't missing from a stable home where something random went wrong. She was taken from a situation already blinking red with warning signs. Part 4. The courtroom, the sentences, and the question that never stops echoing. When a case like this reaches trial, people want a clean ending, a verdict, a sentence, a moment where the world feels balanced again. But Shaniya's case does not give that kind of comfort. The evidence against Mario and Dret McNeil is built from surveillance footage, phone records, witness testimony, timelines, and the grim conclusions of investigators. In 2013, McNeil is convicted of first-degree murder and related charges, and he is sentenced to death. Later, higher courts uphold that sentence. For many, that is where they want the story to stop. Monster caught, monster punished. But Shaniya's story cannot end there, because the system failure is not a footnote, it is part of the main plot. Antoinette Davis, Shaniya's mother, takes a plea deal in 2013 and is sentenced to prison for her role, avoiding a life sentence. And in court, you see the collision of two realities, a legal process trying to assign responsibility, and a family trying to survive a loss that cannot be measured in years. Shaniya's father speaks in a way that doesn't feel scripted, because grief never is. There is anger, there is pain, there is a kind of exhaustion that sits behind every word. The kind of exhaustion that comes from knowing your child's name is now a case file, a headline, a cautionary tale. And this is where the story stops being only about crime. It becomes about the chain that allowed the crime. Because everyone loves the idea that evil is rare, random, and easy to spot. But this case shows a different truth. Sometimes evil is local. Sometimes it is familiar. Sometimes it knows your address. Sometimes it doesn't even have to break in because it's invited. And if you think about the hotel footage for too long, it gets worse. Shaniya was there, in public, under bright lights, steps away from people buying coffee and checking in and going about their day. She was carried through a lobby like a bundle, silent, barefoot, vulnerable. The world was close enough to help her, but the world didn't know. Not yet. Only after she disappeared did the machinery of protection turn on. Only after an alert was issued did strangers recognize her and call. Only after the worst happened did hundreds of people flood the woods to search. So the question that stays, long after the verdict, is not just who did it, it's this. Why did protection arrive only after catastrophe? Why was the urgency louder after she vanished than it was while she was living in a dangerous situation? That is the part that should haunt a community, not as guilt, but as a warning. Because if we only mobilize when a child becomes a headline, we are always late. Shaniya Nicole Davis was 5 years old. She should have been safe. She should have grown up. And if this case means anything beyond grief, it is a demand, not for better speeches after tragedy, but for earlier action before tragedy. Because once a child is gone, every search, every siren, every press conference is just the world trying to outrun a moment that already happened, and the world almost never wins that race.